talk about culture today. And how do we define culture? Core value of the company. What else? Aim of the company. Principles. Organizing principles of the organization. But the corporate culture plays out in a variety of ways. We can have a sense of it by looking at how information is shared in the organization, how performance is managed, how people interact with each other, if people collaborate or doesn't collaborate or works in silos. How is, the culture is also reflected in the structure of the organization, in the levels of hierarchy, in how the job titles are defined. So it's the collective way we do things around here. So now what's the problem? The problem is that in the last couple of centuries, the corporate world has been shaped by a very old worldviews. So what is a worldview? The worldview is the way that we see and observe and make sense of what happens in the world. The worldview is the cognitive lens that we use to assess, make decisions, and evaluate what enters in the compass of our conscious mind. So when I say that the corporate culture has been shaped around very old worldviews, I mean that the business world have operated under the influence of a mechanistic view of people and business. So people is generally defined as resources and treated as such. And also shaped by a reductionist approach to problem solving and change. So where the symptom is addressed and not the root causes or the systemic implications. So companies have been organized around hierarchical templates. The way they look at markets and people is by predicting and controlling. Predicting and controlling. But what happens? Today, companies are riding through the biggest storm of change and uncertainty that ever happened from the Industrial Revolution. So everywhere they face the challenge of being in markets where they do not have control over. And it's probably the first time in their lives. And the acceleration of change and uncertainty makes the predictions completely useless. So the systemic crisis is impacting the long-term and short-term viability of organizations. But let's just focus on a few very interesting trends that are shaping our new worldviews, the worldviews that is emerging. And let's start with this definition. John Perry, the former White House speechwriter and award-winning editor of several newspapers, says that fundamental beliefs and value systems are realigning. And on balance, most of those realignments are for the good. This is accepted or not actually becoming a better word. And at no previous time this statement could have been possible. We are living in an era of meaning renaissance. If we look at some very successful books, and I'll give you a few examples, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren, with 22 million copies sold, became the nonfiction hit in history. There are also other books that are very successful, and it gives you the sense of how this search for meaning is expanding. For example, The Good Business, Leadership Flow, and the Making of Meaning by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. But also Liberating the Corporate Soul by Richard Barrett, that we will be hearing in a moment. So business had yet to broadly come to terms with the decreasing influence of the materialistic values about what people want from life, which is the inevitable result of an aging society. And this event has enormous proportion and is shaping the way that our society. So we're transitioning from a having society to a being society, where having societies are steeped into self-centeredness and materialism, while being societies are instead more others-focused, and they are deeply ingrained in moral values, and they search for meaning. For example, do you all know Whole Foods, the grocery chain in the United States? Well, people are available to pay much more than they would pay at a normal grocery store for some eggs, just for the thinking of doing right by purchasing eggs from free-range hens. But also, I bumped into this very interesting research from Edelman Group, and it's called the Good Purpose Study, that tells us how the decision by consumers is changing. 86% expect the organization to put equal weight, emphasis on business and on society. Also, 53% rank social purpose as the #1 decision for choosing a brand, before design, before brand value, brand loyalty. And 73% will switch to another brand if this brand of similar quality would sustain a good cause. So people is looking for how the companies that they buy products and services from can help them deal with social issues, and also how the purchase of goods and services will help others, not just themselves. So in a way, it's like switching from what's in it for me to what's in it for we, if you excuse my English. So while the materialistic values and behaviors are still present in the younger and less accomplished segments of society, well, the mainstream culture increasingly reflects the being focus. And the being focus emerges at upper levels of psychological maturity. And the pre-middle-aged population, which is the most having focus segment of society, is shrinking in every developed nation. So the shift toward a being ethos is changing the way business is done and the way we manage people and our culture. So the members of today's middle-aged population, let's say people in between the 40 years old and 60 years old, which I assume is probably the majority of the people in this room, form a critical demographic mass that is completely reshaping the values of our society. And they are turning the ethos of generativity into the most powerful force in society. Generativity is defined by the tendency to help the next generation to come into its own successfully. And this mass is reshaping the moral foundation. And in business, what it means, generativity in business means sustainability. So and if we look at the donation, for example, that Warren Buffett made to Bill's and Melinda Gates Foundation, it was $31 billion, I suppose, it gives you a sense of how this generativity is then influencing behaviors and mindsets. And this midlife disposition toward self-realization is not new to the human experience. The difference now is that the critical mass is enormous. So in a way, self-actualization is reshaping business, and I would say that it's, the self-actualization of capitalism is started. Another trend that really impacts our lives and how business is done is, you can imagine, social media. Well, it will have effects that we cannot even imagine. Let's say that 48 hours of videos are uploaded every single minute on YouTube, resulting in 8 years of content every single day. Facebook in only 8 years reached 1 billion users. It never happened to any media before. Social media are transforming not just the way we communicate, but it's changing the way business is done, customer service is done, innovation is done, research is done. And companies need to apply new mindsets and behaviors and unlearn some of the lessons, the majority of the lessons of the past 20 years. But let's take customer service interactions. In pursuit of efficiency, companies have made them increasingly structured and scripted. So this allowed very low-skilled and low-cost personnel to perform these duties. So what happens if you have a problem? The resolution can take days, weeks, or even months. And this may be acceptable in a world where the customer service of a company is the only place, the first, the last, and only place that you can go to get help. But what's happening now is that people bypass the systems, go directly online and look for other people to solve the problem together, and they will make the problem public in a flash. And talking about this, I would like to show you a video that I believe it really is a testimony for all the things that I've been talking so far: the meaning renaissance, the being society, social media. It's about a couple in Israel that used social media to begin an anti-war campaign. It happened last March, after hearing declarations of war by both presidents of Israel and Iran. So let's take a look at this video.
Hi, I'm Ronnie. I'm 41 years old. I'm a father. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a teacher. I'm a citizen of Israel, and I need your help. Lately in the news you can hear about a war coming, a big one. Governments are talking about destruction, about self-defense, like this war is not about us. 3 days ago I posted a poster on Facebook. The message was simple: Iranian, we will never bomb your country, we love you. Attached to the poster I wrote a few words. To the Iranian people, to all father, mother, children, brothers and sisters. For there to be a war between us, first we must be afraid one of each other. We must hate. I'm not afraid of you. I don't hate you. I don't even know you. No Iranian ever did me no harm. I never even met an Iranian, just one in Paris in a museum. Nice dude. I see sometime here on the TV an Iranian. He's talking about war. I sure it does not represent all of the people of Iran. If you see someone on your TV talking about bombing you, be sure it does not represent all of the people of Israel. So within 24 hours, people start sharing the poster on their Facebook. Within 48 hours, the Iranian people start responding to the posters and share back their love to us. Hundreds of messages arriving from Iran telling the Israeli people, we love you back. The day after we were on TV, on newspaper, proving that the message was traveling fast. Okay, now we want to make sure that the message reaches everybody, not only in the Facebook community, but everywhere. This is a message by the people to the people. So please donate and help us spread this message. Thank you.
So this is just a story, but it gives you an idea of how people think, how people behave, and what people expect from their lives to be of service of others. So Scott Keller and Colin Price wrote in the McKinsey Quarterly on June 2011 that healthy organizations don't merely learn to adjust themselves to their current context or to challenges that lie just ahead, but they create a capacity to learn and keep changing over time. And they also calculated the impact on the performance and on the financial metrics. Now, the corporate culture in broad terms, needs to make a big shift, big fundamental shift. And they are from reductionist to holistic, from shareholder values to stakeholders' value, from command to empower, from structure to fluidity, and so on. And I'm sure that many of you have heard some of those words in the strategies that comes from your mother company. My question is, how many of you have been involved in one way or in another in a change program over the last 10 years? In a change program in an organization. And I would like to ask you, how many of you think that the change program that went through worked, or let's say, reached the fullest potential? Kind of. Well, the problem is that, of course, it's difficult to make those shifts. So what does it take? These are all adaptive challenges. And when you are confronting with adaptive challenges, what you need to do is to transform your mindsets, not just applying new rules or applying new structure or applying new practices, because it doesn't work. It doesn't change anything. So the case for change here, the case for the transformation, is that we really need people to transform their mindsets if we want a transformational program or a change program to succeed. So in their book, Immunity to Change, Robert Keegan and Lisa Lackley note that the natural tendency of leaders over time is to increase the complexity of their mind due to the increased challenges that they face. And they identify 3 stages of these, let's say, mental complexities, 3 plateaus. So the first plateau is the socialized mind. And in the socialized mind, the self is shaped by the definitions and expectations of the external environment. So the person is aligned to and is loyal to relationships or to schools of thoughts or both. And here the behavior may be influenced by the fears of not belonging and not feeling acknowledged. The next level is the self-authoring mind. So the self-authoring mind is defined by one sense of purpose and an internal orientation. So a person can step back enough from his own ideology or personal authority to generate an internal sense of judgment personal authority. But in this plateau, the behavior may be influenced by the fear of not having control or not being enough in the eyes of others. And then the third stage, or the third plateau, is the self-transforming mind. In the self-transforming mind, the person is able to transcend the traditional thinking and act in authentically transformational ways. So from this perspective, the leader can step back and reflect on its ideology or even its personal authority and realize that no system is complete or no system is perfect. Can dance between different frameworks. Can also understand that it can dance well in contradiction and between opposites. So when we look at the social mind, at the self-authoring mind, the leader can only see the world through his or her lenses. But when you go to the transformational mind, then the leader can look at his or her own lenses or filters. So Keegan and Lackley research connects the increase, let's say, in mental complexity to a higher level of effectiveness of the leader, and also on the capacity of dealing with uncertainty and change in a very creative and transformational ways. But this requires for leaders to transcend the limitation of their current mindsets and be able to understand, to have a better understanding of themselves and their purpose. So now the problem is that the people in the self-transforming mind in the organization are very lonely, because research shows that there are only 1% of people in the organization accessing that level. So it means that what is required from the leader's mind is not equal to what the leader's mind is capable of. So it's really important that to face the challenges that I mentioned before, to make all the shift, to make all the cultural transformations, the leaders are able to access those states of complexity of the mind that allow them to make those shifts. So it's like a journey toward psychological maturity and across a broad range of intelligences. Now, developing intelligence in one system or in one domain will not be enough. So where do I want to get? Well, if we want to make cultural transformation that work, we need to help the leader to make this journey. And generally, the current leadership program do not address this element. So let me very quickly, when we talk about transformation, there are several definitions of transformation, and I chose one that I really like, that I want to share with you. Transformation does not merely change our actions, does not merely give us new options from which to choose. Rather, it uncovers the structure of being and interpretation on which we are grounded, often unaware of our grounding in them. And this is the work of transformation, this revealing of ourselves to ourselves, which occurs in a profound way that alters the very possibility of being that we are, inescapably, decisively, and forever. So think about what does it mean uncovering the structure of being and interpretation on which we are grounded. It's making the shift between being subject and completely unaware to object, to be able to see our filters. So let me just, to finish, let me just introduce a framework for leadership development that in a way, I steal by another coach whose name is Rick Ross. And it is formed by two axes. One axis is about personal or transpersonal self, and the other axis is between internal and external environment. So each of the four quadrants is a leadership state. So it's a way that the leader show up and is present to the world in a particular way. And each of the quadrants goes around a fundamental question. So let's look at the four quadrants. The transactional state is at the intersection of the personal self and the external environment. And it rotates around the question, what can I accomplish? Well, the leadership state is the foundation of all the leadership thinking, practice, and education so far. And it has to do with esteem, status, will to accomplish, creating, demonstrate and prove ability. It's based on the concept that you need to set goals and objectives for the followers, and then as well as using rewards and punishment to create compliance. And whilst this is essential for, let's say, on a holistic point of view, if there is an overemphasis in this quadrant, it creates an enormous limitation for the development of the leader. The other quadrant is at the intersection of the personal self and the internal state. The fundamental question here is, who am I? So the focus of attention is to influence and mature the correspondence within the inner experience and the outer world, making this correlation more mature, more fluid, more honest and conscious. And here, self-reflection as a practice is really important, as well as the practices that allow the individual to integrate the shadow aspect of themselves. Self-reflection really allows this subject-object movement. So for a person who takes as subject mindsets, feelings, worldviews, when the person is able to take them as object, well, it changes everything, because they can question it observe it, question it, and change it. We have also the transcendent state, which is at the intersection of the internal environment and the transpersonal self. And here the fundamental question is, what am I? Here this capacity represents our ability to go beyond the normal and physical boundaries of our presence in the universe, and to develop an array of abilities that allow us to access knowledge and information that are generally correlated to heightened and extended states of consciousness. And there are enormous opportunity to work in this segment in the leadership development, because it's not addressed by any of the programs that I've heard of. And among others abilities in this quadrant, the leader can access extended states of flow, peak performance, access to intuitive thinking, and synchronicity, personal vitality. So it's really fundamental for the challenges that we have ahead of us. And finally, the transformational state is around the question, how can I serve? And we go back to the meaning quest. So it's about giving space to the realization of the person that comes from their soul, about their purpose in life and their purpose in contributing to life. And as I said, this is the soul's voice that speaks from this place. And also the attention to wholeness, both personal and planetary, has its root here. So to conclude, the business case that I want to make for transforming cultures in the organizational setting is that it became a necessity for the kind of challenges that are ahead of us. And this transformation starts with the transformation of each single individual, especially leaders inside the organization. And this cannot be done if we only look at technical solutions, technical education, technical practices. So we need to equip our leaders with a range of capabilities that go beyond the transactional state. Having said that, I will give it back to Stefano that will introduce the next keynote.